And here it is, the first special chapter, and it only took me 50. If all goes to plan, this will be a long one, so those of you who disliked the short chapters recently should be happy. I've tried to incorporate some of the most memorable moments from the movie into this. And yes, the 2 promised other mini specials will be at the end. Enjoy. 13? Break asked. Who or what the hell is... Oh no. She rubbed a hand over her eyes. As in Android 13? Really? You already did 17 and 18, why are you going backwards now? 13. Cell began, but was cut off by 3 pairs of feet tapping on the ground. Gohan 17 and 18, the reformed androids wearing a patchwork assortment of pieces of their old outfits and whatever they'd been able to scavenge. Life, though improving, was still hard. Landed on the banks of the river, behind Break. Hey, Gohan said, stern expression on his face. I take it this adorable creature is Cell. That's right, she nodded to the androids. Be careful, he may try to absorb you. But at the moment, he shouldn't be able to take any of us on, so try not to worry too much. Now, she turned back to Cell. Tell me about this 13.
The original Android 13 design was put on hold and never constructed, Cell explained. Along with 14 and 15, they were deemed inferior to models 16, 17, and 18. However, in light of their obvious failure to perform their designated tasks, units with less sophisticated processors were required, less likely to rebel. Models 13, 14, and 15 fitted these specifications and the available resources perfectly. 13 in particular received some improvements from the original design to counteract your unexpected increase in strength. You may be a Super Saiyan, but today, you will face a Super Android.
You seem awfully humble, 18 noted. The Cell I remember had an ego the size of Mars. What gives? She and 17 had obviously been practicing the key sense technique Gohan had taught them, and used it to detect Cell along with the Saiyans.
Well noted, Cell replied. Indeed, I myself have received some modifications, in the light of my own presumed failure in the past. In addition, based on the observed behavior of this alternate pair of you, it was predicted that I would have a high chance of eventually rebelling against Dr. Gero's plans. Thus, these modifications have altered my mentality somewhat.
Huh, Break shrugged. I prefer the good old original recipe Cell myself. Now we have the mindless servant flavor. Whatever. So this Android 13 is going to kill us, is it? Finish what your 17 and 18 started? In which case I have to wonder why you're here and not him. Or her, I guess. It. Whatever.
Though he lives only in computerized form, the Doctor retains his flair for the dramatic,
Cell said, slowly floating upwards.
Follow me. The final confrontation will take place in a location of our choosing. You could choose not to comply, of course, or simply attack me now, in which case 13 is programmed to be released within 12 hours and begin immediately attacking the nearest human settlement. So it's your choice.
Doesn't sound like much of a choice at all. Gohan decided, following Cell. I guess we're going. Right. 17 took off. I want to see the end of this. You? He asked 18. Count me in, she confirmed. Let's finish the bastard who made us into monsters. I guess we're all agreed, Break said, joining the group as they followed Cell through the air, keeping a wary distance. Keep your eyes out for a surprise attack on the way, she told them. I wouldn't put it past Gero. Will do. 18 looked slightly apprehensive. Hey, are you worried about Cell at all? Break shook her head. Nah. Like he is now, any of us could beat him, no problem. Even in a worst-case scenario, if he absorbed one of you, Gohan and I could still win. And if he somehow got you both, I'd still be stronger. Hey, don't you mean we? Gohan interjected. I've mastered Super Saiyan too, you know. No, I mean me. What are you hiding from me? He paused. I haven't seen your full power yet, have I? Hopefully you won't have to. Gohan fell silent, keeping one eye on Cell as his thoughts drifted off. Just how powerful are you, Break? What are you concealing? And why did you never tell me?
13. They approach. It is time. Awaken.
Heh, you don't have a Goku for me to kill, so we're settling for the kids. Fine. This fight's 20 years overdue. Let's do it. They came to a halt, slowly descending towards the ground. Cell had landed on an unremarkable patch of wasteland, overlooked by a mountain range.
Stand here,
it commanded. Whatever you say. Brake muttered as they stood in a loose cluster behind the formerly fearsome bio-android. At a silent signal from Cell, a low rumble began to emanate from the landscape around them, and the patch of earth around them slowly sank beneath the surface, mechanical noises accompanying the grinding descent. The large platform finally stopped, quite a ways below the surface. A hatch closed above them, shrouding them in total darkness. There was a loud crack and a cry of pain, and shortly, cold blue fluorescent lights flashed into life, illuminating a circular chamber some 200 meters across. Cell laid sprawled on the ground, and 17 stood with his fist extended and a smug expression on his face. You just couldn't resist, could you? Well, I don't blame you for trying.
Curse you!
Cell hissed. Now. A thick southern accent rang out across the room. If you're going to attack someone, at least do it well. Honestly, Cell, you're making us all look bad. You're a disgrace. Perfect android my ass. Brake scowled. Let me guess. 13? You can come out, you know. If you've invited us here to try and kill us, let's not waste time. Well, now. The voice continued as the speaker stepped out of the shadows. Aren't you quite the little firecracker? Patience. Android 13 was tall and thick-set, easily dwarfing all of them except Cell. He wore baggy dark green pants, a small jacket emblazoned with Red Ribbon Army insignia, which was also present on his baseball cap, out from under which flowed untamed white hair down below his shoulders. 18 rolled her eyes. Is he programmed to sound Southern? Or just what Gero thought a Southerner is supposed to sound like from watching too many bad movies? Typical of the old bastard. Oh, look who it is. The outdated model. Having fun gathering dust? 17 jeered. Hey now! He addressed them one by one. Respect your elders, girl. And you, boy. I don't like your attitude. Maybe I'll fix that. He cracked his knuckles. No way! Brake took a step forwards, assuming her Super Saiyan form. I'm your opponent! Because if the worst does come to pass, hopefully I can call on that power one more time. If you say so. He shot her a quizzical look. Say, ever since you did your little time jaunt, you look a little bit different as Super Saiyans. Hair's a bit paler and softer, aura's a bit smoother. What's all that about? If you must know, it's just the full power. Brake began, but was interrupted mid-sentence by a straight jab to the face that flung her back across the sparse arena. Idiot! 13 grinned. That was an amateur mistake, falling for that old trick. He leapt after her. Hold on! 17 prepared to charge in to intercept 13, but without warning, 18 tackled him to the ground, pushing him out of the way of a pair of incoming energy blasts. Thanks, he breathed. But who was that? Another pair of figures appeared out of the shadows. Accessing his internal database as they stood up, 17 nodded. I see. Android's 14, a muscular giant, even bigger than 13, with pale gray skin, archaic military clothing, and a long ponytail. And 15, a purple-skinned midget with a comically large hat and bow tie, accompanied by sunglasses and a bright orange coat. 17 snickered. I could see why Gero scrapped you, but I can't comprehend what was going through his head when he designed you. It looks like the circus just came to town. You'll soon learn not to mock us, 14 said in a harsh, robotic voice. 15, let's go. The shorter artificial human drawled. The four androids stood facing each other one moment, and the next they were gone, racing back and forth across the room as they engaged in battle. Gohan stood there at the center of the room, breathing deeply. Cell had vanished, attempting to use high-speed movement to appear invisible. There! Gohan's eyes snapped open, and his cybernetic arm lashed out, catching Cell across the jaw mid-leap as he powered up to Super Saiyan in the same moment. Cell crashed to the floor, and Gohan smiled. You know, I never went back in time, so I never got to fight the other version of you. So, this is going to be fun. Do not underestimate me! Cell snarled. I don't have to. I know you can't win. He raised his guard. Come prove me wrong. Brake bounced off the wall, rocketing back at 13. That was low. Are you that scared of me that you have to resort to trickery? Why don't you attack me and find out? 13 sneered. Excellent idea. She ducked under the android's next clumsy, sweeping punch, slamming an uppercut into his chin. You know that as long as I'm here, no android's ever going to threaten this world again. She followed up with a knee strike, driving 13 back, then spun around, throwing a spinning kick back at his head. At the last second, his tense body moved with an instant readiness, grabbing her incoming leg and stopping the attack. He's moving faster than he was just now, she realized. He was just feigning weakness to catch me off guard now. Before this thought was even finished, 13 swung Break over his head, tossing her to the ground and beginning a vicious beatdown, relentlessly kicking his downed opponent as he struggled to break away. Finally, she pushed off the ground, escaping the onslaught, but disoriented from the attack, she reacted too slow to 13 as he charged again, her counterattack too uncoordinated to even come close to hitting. Retaining his advantage, 13 took hold of her hair, swinging her around one-handed and smacking her head first into the wall. Cracks spread out through the stone from the impact, and blood trickled down her face. She spat out a mouthful of it, reaching around and managing to get a grip on his shoulder, reversing the hold, and blasting him away with a wave of ki. She rubbed her eyes, trying to clear her vision. Focus! This guy takes no prisoners. He's fighting dirty. Gotta be on top form. Soda Flare! Sorry. A dull thud echoed around the arena as Gohan's fist hit home again. I can sense you just fine with my eyes closed. Gah! Cell jumped back to his feet, readying another technique. Special Beam Cannon! Nope. Gohan laughed as the beam approached him, then blocked it with ease. The difference between our powers is too great for even that technique to overcome, I'm afraid. Kienzan! Ooh, good choice. That might actually hurt me. The Super Saiyan grinned as he appeared behind Cell, the razor-edged energy disc passing through his afterimage. Unless I dodge it, of course. Now, let me try this new technique I've got worked out. He raised his fist once more. I'm calling it punching you senseless. Suffice to say, Cell did not remain conscious for long. Calming her mind, Break ran at 13, drawing her arm back to strike. However, as she approached, he swung his hand forwards, opening his fist. She flinched, but the blow never came. Instead, a handful of dirt flew into her eyes, taking her by surprise and blinding her. Gah! You bastard! When are you going to fight fair? Come on now! He kneed her in the stomach, his elbow crashing down in the back of her neck as she doubled over. Ain't no such thing as fair here, kid. In case you hadn't noticed, I'm trying to kill you! She trembled, waves of pain running through her body, trying to stay conscious and push herself up on her hands and knees before the next blow came. 13 stepped back to try and resume his favorite tactic, kicking them while they're down, naturally, when a cry from behind him caught his attention. Break! Hang on, I'm coming! Gohan flew at 13, grim-faced. If she's in this much trouble, this guy's must be serious business. I've got to get it everything I got! Gritting his teeth, he began to charge up energy between his hands. Kamehameha! The blue beam surged out at 13, who just grinned. It was becoming something of a habit. Alright, now we're talking. Reaching down, he picked up a still recovering Break by the shoulders, tossing her into the path of the attack. It detonated with deafening force, flattening the 4 lesser androids. Sorry. Gohan mumbled as Break collapsed, smoke rising from her body. Thanks for finishing her for me. She was your best, huh? 13 gloated. Your turn now! We'll see! Gohan leapt through the air, launching a flying kick that brought 13 crashing to the ground. However, he was back on his feet too fast for Gohan to take advantage of the opening, and the two warriors locked in combat. Gohan on the offensive, 13 keeping his defenses up, willingly gave ground to avoid attacks. Finally, he saw his opening and struck, twisting slightly to the side, and let Gohan's biological arm pass right by his head, then moved like a spring let loose, pouncing forwards and biting deep into the half-breed's arm, then ripping back out, tearing at his enemy's flesh. Gohan fell back, gasping, but 13 didn't give him a moment to recover. Smiling maliciously, he took a run-up and planted his foot squarely between Gohan's legs, dropping him like a sack of bricks. I told you, all's fair in love and war. 17 jumped back as 15's fist tore a hole in the wall. Close, but try again. The teenage android gloated. His diminutive opponent scowled, vanishing. 17 raised an eyebrow, glancing around. And now I finally get how annoying it is to fight us. No key to sense. He turned too late as 15 appeared behind him, kicking him in the back and stunning him. The cybernetic assassin raised his hand, aiming an energy beam at 17's head. But another energy wave from the side knocked it off target. "Who blasted my blast?" he exclaimed before 18 appeared in front of him, driving a fist right into his head and smashing his core processor. 15 collapsed, ruined, but 14's massive frame came thumping up next to 18. A telegraphed but unexpectedly fast kick sending her flying. Before 14 could follow up, however, 17 tapped him on the shoulder. "Hey, big guy. Over here!" He punctuated the last word with a two-handed energy blast, blowing 14 into pieces. 18 stood up, nodding in gratitude. "Thanks for the save." "You too," he replied. "Well now, looky here," came a now unfortunately familiar voice as 13 approached, whistling. "Fighters are dropping like flies, and it's 2-on-1. Now, what am I gonna do?" He dropped the sarcasm. "Seriously though, I thought I could take 2 of you at once pretty easy as I am. But who wants to see my real power? And incidentally, the good doc's failsafe plan, in case one of us was the last standing to boot." Not me?" 17 decided. "No, I don't want to see that. You're real strong. I'll just take your word for it." "I wasn't asking!" "Now." He stretched his arms out at his sides, closing his eyes. "Come to Papa." At this, a pair of microchips detached themselves from the remains of 14 and 15, flying over and slotting into the sides of his head, vanishing under his skin. They were followed up by 2 power cores, which sunk into his chest, absorbed without trace as well. "You're about to find out what we meant by a super android." "I'd rather not," 18 muttered, edging away from their foe. 13 crackled as his skin darkened in tone, shifting to a dark blue. His muscles bulged outwards, ripping through his jacket and forming metallic armored plates on his chest and shoulders. His hair, now bright orange, struck upwards in a flame-like shape, almost like Vegeta's, pushing his cap off. His face became savage and bestial, with lengthened teeth and blank yellow eyes. Unusually for such a transformation, there was little in the way of accompanying fireworks or earth-shattering explosions. But 13's attitude told them everything they needed to know. What was previously a difficult fight had suddenly become a nigh impossible one. "Round 2! He rumbled in a low, animalistic voice. "Attack together!" 18 decided. "Right!" Her brother nodded, and they charged, but their attack simply bounced off 13's invulnerable skin. Laughing, he grabbed the pair by their heads, smashed them together, and threw them clean through the wall. "Too easy!" he boasted, rolling his shoulders. "Hey!" 13 looked around to see Brake standing behind him, voice shaky but determined. "Come and get me!" Flaring up her aura, she flew up through the roof of the subterranean cavern, 13 following close behind. Cell rolled over onto its back, pushing itself to his feet. There! It couldn't believe its luck. 17 and 18, unconscious on the ground, mere meters away, just begging to be absorbed. Gohan still incapacitated, 13 and Brake gone. Nothing left now between Cell and perfection. Despite his modifications, it couldn't help but laugh maniacally as it approached the unwitting pair. Brake hung in the air opposite 13, battle ready, a sharp contrast to the android's relaxed, passive pose. He was clearly totally unthreatened by his weakened opponent. "I bet you're thinking you've just about got this one, aren't you?" she asked. "Why? You've got a different idea." "Something like that." She gritted her teeth. "I didn't want to do this, but it seems I've got no choice. Alright, you've transformed. Now it's my turn." "Ha!" 13 barked. "Transform? You're already a Super Saiyan. What are you going to do? Become a Super Saiyan?" At the risk of repeating myself, yeah, something like that. "Now that sounds fun. Let's see it." "Alright, but you asked for it." She threw her head back, yelling at the top of her voice, her aura intensifying, the golden glow mixing with flecks of green. Her eyes blanked out as points of intense light began to shine out from her skin. Finally, the power within escaped, bursting out from within and completely transforming her. Several seconds later, as the light died down, the legendary Super Saiyan stood revealed. Now, time to end this! She felt the first drops of rain on her shoulders as clouds began to gather overhead. So that's it! Gohan, still limping a little, had recovered somewhat and was standing above ground, watching Break in 13. Your full power! It's unbelievable! Why didn't you ever show me this before? I didn't know if I could control it. And sparing your feelings, don't think you can use it. Well, alright. He powered up to Super Saiyan, wary of the oncoming clash between these two gigantic powers. I'm here if you need... His eyes flicked down to the ground, and he jumped clear just as the rock and metal beneath his feet crumbled, vanishing into the sickly green glow beneath. What the hell? That looks familiar. Break thought. Then her stomach lurched as she realized. Cell! He's... I can guess. Gohan nodded, preparing himself for what was to come. Don't worry, I've got this one. You just worry about your super android. Alright. He knows what he's doing, she told herself. Focus. She turned back to 13. Let's go. Thought you'd never ask. He bellowed, launching himself at her. Tensing up, she struck right as his stance shifted to offense, driving her fist between his armor plates and sending him reeling back. Try again! Gohan stood at the edge of the crater, watching the light die down. A streak of high-speed movement shot past him, and Cell stood behind him, laughing softly. Slowly, Gohan turned, and saw Cell's perfect form, revealed in all its glory, still crackling with the energy of his transformation. Well, hello there, Gohan. You're going to regret your earlier mockery, Cell promised. Gohan ignored the threat. 17 and 18. They came here for a chance at redemption. And now I failed them! How could I let this happen? I should have destroyed Cell earlier when I had the chance! Let those two go, or I'll make you. Oh, will you? And just how are you planning on doing that, pray tell? Well... He chuckled as if at an internal joke. Remember that new technique I mentioned earlier? Break lunged again, but 13 sidestepped, bringing his elbow around in a powerful strike that made her head spin. She somersaulted away, vanishing and reappearing inches from him, smashing into him with a hurricane of punches, performing another somersault, and knocking him down towards the ground with an overhead kick. 13 growled angrily as he righted himself before he impacted, arcing back up towards his enemy. Get it together, 13! She's the one thing between us and revenge on this planet! It all comes down to this! She's got to die! Thunder split the sky, illuminating the fighters against the darkening storm front. Back for more? Break blocked his first punch, the impact sending out shockwaves that flattened a nearby forest, but the follow-up kick took her legs out from under her. She rolled with the blow, coming up beside 13 and hammering him two-handed, but the blow rebounded off his guard. Am I even hurting this guy? She wondered. I can't tell! Gohan and Cell were at close quarters, pushing against each other with all their physical and spiritual strength, the ground buckling and warping around them as they are strained under the power of two godlike beings locked in combat. So, this is your perfect form! Gohan growled more as they struggled. Honestly, I expected... He pulled back, tossing Cell over his shoulder as the android stumbled. More! Cell skidded to a halt, drawing in a gasping breath. Loath as I am to admit, he has a point. I should be far stronger than this. How am I not easily overpowering him? Super Saiyan should be as insects to me in this form. Solar Flare! Gohan staggered away. Last time his ki sense alone had been enough to avoid Cell's attacks, but now his opponent was that much faster, shielding his eyes, leaving him open to the blur of attacks that followed, flooring him in seconds. He thrust his arm down at the ground, pushing off with his ki and almost throwing himself to his feet, swinging around and delivering a devastating haymaker straight to Cell's throat. We beat you in the past. We won't let you win here either. This world is humanity's, and no machine is going to conquer it in any timeline! Wincing, Cell attempted a quick feint, falling backwards and pretending to be winded, then springing forwards and kicking Gohan in the stomach. No, today you will fall. For over 30 years we have waited for this day. You can't escape the past. I am the engine of destruction, and you are my prey. Are you done? Gohan asked, picking himself up. I know what you want. I fought you my whole life, android. I don't need to hear it again. So spare me the monologue, will you? Android. Cell's eyes twitched, illuminated by a bolt of lightning. I am no common machine, primate. Choose your words carefully, for they shall be your last. Break stared down at the battle below her. It was so strange seeing Cell again, hearing that voice again. She knew he was no match for her, but it still gave her the chills just to look at him. Unfortunately, this momentary distraction gave 13 an advantage. You're wide open! He shouted, flying into her in a barrage of fists and feet. Forced back by the unrelenting assault, she took several powerful blows before regaining the initiative, feigning to the left then striking quickly with an opposite hand, knocking him away. Cell staggered back, panting with exertion after another beating. What is happening? He shrieked. I should be far mightier than this! He lowered his stance. Enough of this foolishness! Let's see how you stand up to my full power. Kamehameha! The energy wave flew out and engulfed Gohan. But when it faded, he was still standing, both arms raised to block it. Apparently I stand up to it pretty well, he decided, then began to run at Cell, who raced off to the right in an attempt to escape. You've absorbed 2 friends of mine! Gohan shouted as he pursued his opponent. Release them! Now! Never! Cell snarled back at him, throwing a volley of ki blasts. Gohan kicked off the ground, avoiding them, and appearing in front of Cell with one arm drawn back. Then I'll have to make you! He yelled, punching Cell in the stomach with such devastating force it stopped the attacking android dead in his tracks. Cell fell to his knees, coughing and retching as convulsions started to shake his body. Something seemed to build within him, and a deathly scream escaped his throat, before he threw his head forwards. And to Gohan's shock, Android 18 came flying out of his unnaturally distorted mouth. Gah! He shrieked, and with a terrible scraping noise, his body began to change. His nose sank into his face, his armor plates became bulkier, and a needle-tipped tail sprouted from his back, even as his wings shriveled up and retracted. He's reverted to his second form, I guess, Gohan noticed, grinning. Awesome! I didn't think that would actually work. Cell placed one hand on the floor to steady himself. No, my perfection, gone! He eyed 18, slumped on the floor in front of him, a little battle damaged and lying in a puddle of who knew what from his innards, but very much alive, and his tail flexed hungrily. If I could just... Don't even think about it! Gohan said sharply, kicking Cell in the chin. The difference between their powers was now even greater, and Cell was sent flying away, spinning end over end until he managed to right himself in midair. Have you figured it out yet? Gohan asked. What? Cell raised an eyebrow suspiciously. Figured what out? You were right. In your perfect form, you should have been able to beat me. I'm sure I'd stand no chance against the perfect Cell that Break fought in the past. But there's a difference between you and that Cell, and I'm not talking about your programming. Stop babbling and just tell me already! Cell clenched his fists. Perhaps this information will tell me what I need to know. How to become every bit as powerful as the other version of me. Simple. You know what that Cell spent so much time doing, both in his future and in the past? Absorbing people. Just random humans, not adding much to his strength individually, but all of them combined. It's the same principle as the spirit bomb. Who knows how many hundreds or thousands of people fell victim to that stinger before he was stopped. In just a few days, Break tells me, he was able to raise his power from being no match for a fused Super Namekian to being able to fight him on equal terms. Such a massive boost, and you went straight to us, not stopping to absorb anyone on the way. You didn't expect to be weaker if you didn't. What the? Cell stammered. It was that simple?
But Dr. Gero's calculations, even in my weakest state, my perfect form should have been able to crush a Super Saiyan!
Sure, Gohan grinned. A basic, untrained Super Saiyan, maybe. Thanks to Break's trip in the past, we've learned how to become full-power Super Saiyans. And as for her, she's something even greater. Anyway, Gero must be big on overkill. As seen in the past, you're fully capable of becoming even more powerful than she is. But I'm not going to give you that chance! He began to charge up his ki, his aura building in intensity. You won't survive to terrorize the people of this planet! I'll stop you here! And first things first, 17's still inside you! Give it back! Yeah! He leapt forwards, spinning in a full circle to build up momentum, then hammered his elbow into Cell's stomach, in the same spot he'd punched the evil android before. Cell collapsed onto his back, coughing up blood. Gah! Again, Cell shuddered and convulsed, shaking for several seconds before its mouth stretched out and released Android 17, who collapsed to the ground in front of Cell. Alright, Gohan breathed out. That's them taken care of. He began to charge up again, the air around him burning gold. Cell forced itself to its feet, struggling to come to terms with its regression to its first bug-like form. It took a couple of shaky steps back, vision swimming, mind racing desperately, trying to think of a way to survive, and falling back on what was now becoming something of an overused tactic. Nope! Gohan threw a straight right punch. Powerful, telegraphed but too fast to block, wrenching Cell's arms out of the solar flare position. I'm done with you now, he decided. It's time to die, Cell. No! No! Cell jumped up into the air, coming to a halt 100 meters or so above. You'll never defeat me! I am the ultimate being! Now, at the point of desperation, its true nature was overriding its subservient modifications more and more. It raised its hands, forming a triangle and forcing all of its energy out into one blast. Tri-beam! Gohan laughed quietly to himself. That's your last effort? Please. What pitiful ki. He waited until the oncoming attack was barely 3 feet away, before thrusting his arms forwards. Kamehameha! It was no contest. Gohan's beam smashed through Cell's, continuing up towards the vile creature itself, blasting it away into the sky, the awesome power of the Super Saiyan completely disintegrating it, and finally ending the menace of Cell in all timelines. Break pounded away at 13's defenses, to no avail. They were about equal in strength and speed, but unlike her, his android body never tired, and he was slowly wearing her down. She threw an uppercut, expertly outmaneuvering his guard, but she was beginning to tire, to slow down, and her enemy had time to dodge backwards, taking only a glancing hit and countering with a heavy elbow drop that sent her flying down to the earth like a particularly irritated meteor. Rolling with the impact, she skidded to a halt on her hands and knees, looking up to see 13 standing over her, one arm extended with the palm facing her, a flickering red energy sphere building around it. Die! He sneered. Break's vision blurred as streaks of rain rolled down across her eyes. She tried to think of a witty comeback, or some kind of brave final insult. But fear struck her and she choked on her words. I can't die like this! There's still so much to be done! Hey! Gohan cannoned into 13, knocking him off balance, and his attack missed Break by inches, carving a 3-mile-long gash in the mountain range behind her. 13 recovered quickly, caught Gohan's next attack, crushing the scarred warrior's fist in his massive hand, then swinging his other arm around and beating Gohan into unconsciousness. He tossed the beaten fighter away, flexing his muscles. Fool! The girl with all her power couldn't take me. What made him think he could? You don't understand humans, do you? Break asked, trying to overcome the pain of her injuries, focusing her ki as her emerald green aura ignited around her, cracks spreading out through the ground from her feet. It's called courage. He knew he had no chance, but he had to try. That's why you humans will always lose, 13 shouted. So many unnecessary emotions. They make you do the dumbest things. In that case, I'd rather die a human than live like you, came 18's voice. She and her brother, upon regaining consciousness, had quickly evaluated the situation and were now charging at 13, attacking him in front and behind in an extremely well-coordinated team effort. but 13 was simply too fast. He swatted them aside like flies, taking them down simultaneously with a double armbar. "It's over!" he growled. "You're right." Break built up speed as she ran at 13, football after thundering football drowning out the raging storm, her pure white eyes blazing with fury. "It is over!" She ducked under 13's wild, surprise swing and threw all her strength into one last effort. Ignoring the hurricane of punches battering her face and shoulders, she grabbed 13's hair in both hands and pulled his head down on her upcoming knee, grinding the armored kneecap against his vulnerable sensor array. 13 fell back, sensors blaring warnings at his core processor, vision flickering, just about making out Break bearing down on him. How the hell did she take all that punishment? And still standing? She should be dead 5 times over! How? He shrieked through warped voice circuits. At that moment, he discovered something that, though already proven by earlier models, he'd never experienced himself. Machines can, in fact, experience fear. "I am the legendary Super Saiyan!" Break roared, arms snapping forwards like a rocket, powering right through 13's head and completely pulverizing it. "Now get the hell off my planet!" Yes, there will be a scene in a later chapter with a sort of denouement. Hope I pronounced that right. I'll come back to this bit to tie up loose ends and whatnot. And now for the 2 other things. First, the Bio Broly, not very special. The following scene takes place in the present timeline, shortly before Gohan sets off to planet Nameia. Dad! Dad! Huh? Gohan sat up in his bed as his 11-year-old son ran up to him, sobbing. Gohan? Are you alright? I had a bad dream! Gohan whimpered. Goku picked him up, resting his son on his lap. Alright, well, you're awake now, huh? So what happened? It was really weird. Gohan looked up at his father. Broly was there, and I think some people were fighting him. He nodded. Yeah, it was Goten. He gestured over at the cot containing his baby brother. And Break, the little one from our time. It was all kind of confusing. What do you mean? Goku asked. You mean how Broly was in it even though he's dead? No, that was the weird thing. It was like he was trying to make sense, but it wasn't very good at it. Some people had Broly's DNA and they cloned him, only they somehow knew his name. Well, it was a dream, you know? Can't expect it to be a coherent story at all. I know. And then Krillin was there, and one of those androids? Gohan scratched his head. I don't really understand what happened next. Broly kind of melted and then started beating everyone up until something to do with the ocean? The ocean killed him. Or something. Look, Dad, I know it made no sense, but it still scared me, okay? You have to admit, Broly was pretty scary. Yeah, I guess so. Goku smiled. But you know what? I wouldn't worry. If Broly ever appeared again, you know what would really happen? You and me would fly over before anyone else and send him right back where he came. Think about it. If either of us had been there, it'd have been a really short dream. You're one of the most powerful beings in the universe. Try and remember that whenever you're scared. Alright. Thanks, Dad. Gohan hopped off his father's lap onto the floor and shuffled back to his room. Whatever. It was just a stupid dream. Come on, that never happened. Well, I didn't say it was going to be serious, did I? Come on. Have you even seen that movie? Anyway, the final thing will be a bit more serious. Without further ado, I present to you a preview of Even Further Beyond. Yes, my plans extend this far in the future. However, note that this is a very early draft, and the final thing might not look like this. Well, at all. But it might. Here goes. And in case you're wondering, yes, the main cast you're used to are involved. Just not at first. An example, not in the bit I've got a preview ready for. The universe is dying. The heroes are gone. Time itself lies broken. We are all that's left. Left to watch the death of everything. The heroes of old we're told, used to do the impossible. Our forefathers went beyond the impossible. If anything is to survive, we'll have to go even further beyond. The adolescent Saiyan turned off the audio recorder. Hopefully, even if we fail, someone will find this. Someone will finish it. Hopefully. But I doubt it. It's going to come down to us. And the end of everything. Raditz! Called a voice from outside. Technically, his name was Raditz Jr., but the original bearer of the name was long gone, so they seldom bothered with the Jr. I'm coming, he replied, climbing out of the makeshift shelter into the open air. The sky burned a deep red, slightly darker every day now. He waved a greeting to his friend, also named after a heroic ancestor. Hey, Goku. Goku Jr. had a far-off look on his face, as if he was daydreaming. Do you think this is Earth? Raditz paused, considering this. I don't know, he admitted. It's as likely as not. But really, I'm not sure if it's anywhere. It could all be in our heads. It could be everywhere at once. Look, we're just here. Does it really matter if it used to be called Earth? He got no answer. His friend could be quite strange like this. So he tried a different tact. Did you want something? Goku nodded. I think it's time. How do you know? Same way we know a lot of things we shouldn't know. I just do. Time's collapsing around us. Things don't always happen in the right order in some places. Sometimes we remember things that haven't happened yet. It was true. Events often seem to filter backwards into their minds, giving them a wisdom far beyond their years. The end is close now. I can feel it. I think everybody can. Right. Raditz agreed. We've got to see this, whatever this is going to be, through to the end. You think our training will be enough? I guess we'll find out. Come on, I don't think we have much time. Without another word, they set off, barely noticing as a desert sprung up around them, sandstorms buffeting the pair as they trekked onwards. They didn't know exactly where they were going, so had set off in a random direction. The time being what it was right now, they knew that in about half an hour, they'd encounter the first trial. Therefore, whichever direction they picked would be the correct one. Not to mention that the longer this went on, the more direction in space would itself become meaningless, just as time had. Still, there was some hope. Somewhere, near the birth of the universe, a stump of time, a slice at the beginning, remained intact. Perhaps they could build on that. And they knew it existed, because they could feel him there. Omega is waiting. Okay, I want to write the rest of this now. Almost makes me want to rush through the countdown and boo signs. But I won't, because I don't want to produce anything deliberately bad. So fear not. But seriously, even further beyond, it's happening. And yeah, it's kind of like the Shadow Dragon saga. A little bit, guys. Don't worry, I know what I'm doing. It's not going to be entirely like GT's Shadow Dragon saga. For instance, here's my current list of dragons to include. I may remove the Shenron from some of them if it sounds redundant. Again, these may change. It's still very early days. Sin/Omega Shenron. Might change it to Deus Shenron though. Chrono Shenron. Jaya Shenron. Helio Shenron. Glacius Shenron. Prometheus Shenron. Hades Shenron. For those unfamiliar with GT, no. Most of those were not in it. If you dislike any of this even further beyond stuff, well, okay, go ahead and tell me. As I said, it's a long way off. Much may change. There's plenty of time to suggest changes. Anyway, enough of this. Next week, back to Gohan running around in space. And then, after a few chapters from that, we'll have a plan to eradicate some Super Saiyans, maybe another Super Android, you know the one, and finally, my take on Fusion Reborn. Whether or not any Fusion will be reborn, I'm not going to tell you right now. And then we'll be on to the Majin Buu saga. Alright, that is it for Chapter 50. Thank you so much for tuning in. Next week, I promise, I will have the next episode. I won't have another month-long hiatus. Anyway, it's good to be back. See you in the next video. Don't forget to like, favorite, comment, and subscribe. Tell your friends. Follow me on Twitter to keep up to date with the show. And be redundant. I'll see you in the next video. Stay safe. Ginger Powers, signing off.